Last tutorial for today. Last tutorial, then we'll take a break and we'll talk about homeworks after the break. Remember, I have you till 6:20. So last tutorial for today. I want everyone to go back to the pencil tool. We used the pencil tool today. Remember our fancy little pencil tool? And I want you to add a red outline. Add a red outline. So it's a red stroke, no fill. And I'm on the pencil tool. And I want you know how I drew a little character? I drew a little face with a pencil tool. I want you to do that again. But I'm going to draw a face, a little cartoon face. But I'm actually going to, I call this implying a closed shape. I'm not really closing it, but it implies it. It's sort of creating a closed area. So look, see how this is implying that it's closed? But I didn't draw a closed shape. I just implied that it's closed, right? So the way that these lines are overlapping, there's an encapsulated area right here. Okay, so then I'm going to draw a little tuft of hair sticking up. I'm going to give my character some ears. So I'm drawing a little cartoon face. I'm just scribbling here, sketching with my pencil tool. And I'm going to give him some teeth. Remember, if you don't like one of the lines you draw, you can always undo. Okay. I'm going to give him some pencils. He's an artist, so he needs some pencils. That doesn't look like a pencil. He's an artist, and this is not a pencil. Do you guys get that one? Oh, come on, guys. Did you get it, Diego? This is not a pencil? Did you get it? He's an artist. This is not a pencil. Okay, so. All right, so what I did is I basically drew individual lines or paths, and I hope that you're completing something like this as I'm lecturing. None of these lines are closed. None of them are closed. I've never clicked back onto the starting point. I didn't use a pen tool, and I also didn't use a primitive. These were all sketched out using the pencil tool. So if I move this path over here that defines an area for an ear, you can see it's not closed. If I move the smile, you can see that there's just lines that separate where the teeth is. If I move the part of the eye, it's just a concave shape that's sort of trapping the illusion of where an eyeball would be. The pocket is also not a closed shape. So these are all open lines. These are all open paths. But it is describing an area. It is describing an area. I drew this more like the way that I would draw with a pencil. Is that correct? So very, very much like how you would draw with a pencil. That's pretty much the strategy that I used here. The way that I would describe these lines, I would consider them a network. They're a network of lines. There are a series of lines working collectively to create this illusion. Does that make sense? It's a network. Okay, so What I want to do is I want to add color to this, fill color on this. Okay, so what happens when I select this pocket? Well, let me see. When I select this his eye over here, and I want to fill it with a color. Let's say I want to give him blue eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and select blue fill. Does it align correctly? No, it doesn't. What if I want to give him brown hair? What is that going to look like? Does it fill it correctly? No. So the basic features do not allow me to add the colors and the fills correctly. So I have this outline, this network. It looks right, but I can't add the colors to it. So does Illustrator have a feature that would allow me to take advantage of this network? And the answer is yes. The feature is called Live Paint. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to select all of these lines, this network of lines. Okay, so you'll notice I'm drawing a box around it with my selection tool. Right? Draw a box around it with my selection tool. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to my object menu. So remember, we kind of passed a threshold today. We went past basics and now we're looking at some more advanced stuff, okay? So I'm going to go to the object menu. Do you see the sub-menu that says Live Paint? You see the sub-menu that says Live Paint? There it is. About 7 options from the bottom, 7 or 8 options from the bottom. Live Paint, and you'll notice that I have two features available. Now, we're going to look at this with greater detail later. I'm just introducing it for today. Okay, so I'm going to ignore the options, but I'm going to go ahead and select Make. Okay, now, before I do this, I want you to look at the layers. Look at the layers. It just says Path, 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 and it's in the outline layer, right? And so let me do that again. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the bounding box. Look at the bounding box. Look what the bounding box looks like, okay? All right, I'm going to go to Object, Live Paint, Make. So at first, it doesn't look like a whole lot changed. You know, it didn't really alter it, but you'll notice my bounding box is a little bit different. You see this little asterisk? That's in the bounding box. That wasn't there before. Okay, so you can see there's a little asterisk. That's in the bounding box. And then let's look at the layer. It put the objects in a special group. What is it called? Live Paint group. Okay, so a lot of the advanced and intermediate tools in Illustrator, when you work with them, it makes a special group. So when we worked with a blend today, it made a blend group. Did you guys see that? Now we made a Live Paint group. So it puts it in a special group. Now, this Live Paint feature works with a modification tool. And the modification tool is hidden underneath this object called the Shape Builder. So right here we have the Live Paint bucket, and then we have Live Paint selection. The Live Paint bucket and Live Paint selection. I'm going to tear this away. Okay, so I have my Live Paint group, and I'm going to go to Live Paint selection. You'll notice that when I go to Live Paint selection, see how it highlights the encapsulated area? And if I click on it, it puts a little mesh on that spot. Or if I click on the eye, I click on it, and it puts a mesh on that spot. So the software is now recognizing these areas. It didn't before, it does now. So the Live Paint group understands these encapsulated areas. So look, it understands the pocket. Ooh, look. Uh-oh. It's not understanding the pocket. But it is understanding the pencil and pen. But it doesn't understand the pocket. Does it understand the ear? It does. So you'll notice that some things are being recognized and some things are not. I knew it was going to do that, by the way. Does it recognize the shirt? Why do you think it's not recognizing the shirt? It's not a closed area. Let's not call it a closed path because it's not really, none of these are closed paths. But it's not an enclosed area. Okay, so that's why it doesn't understand the shirt. Why does it not understand the pocket? Why do you think? Do you see why it doesn't understand the pocket? See this little space right here? This is called the gap. This is called the gap. So because there's a gap there, the software doesn't understand that as a enclosed area. Right now, I probably have more gaps, but the software has gap detection. If it has a little tiny space, it thinks, oh, you probably want that closed. But if the space is too big, then it ignores it. Now, whenever I work with a live paint group, I want to see if I have little spaces in the illustration. So I'm going to go to outline mode, Command Y. So when I go to Command Y, I get to see my lines with greater accuracy. And I'm going to zoom in and look at all of my intersections. So check it out, right there. Do I have a little gap right there? Yep, I have a little gap right there, right? And the only way I could see that is if I went into outline mode. See, when I'm in preview, the weight of the stroke fools me. When I go to outline mode, I can see it with greater accuracy. So it's important when you're working with live paint to go into outline mode and look for gaps. So look, there's a gap right there around the shirt and the neck. But the software's closing it off. It understands that one. But this gap is just too big. It's a mistake. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to click on the anchor, and I'm going to move it over, intersect it, and now the software will understand it. See? So you can always modify the lines and anchors, and the software will update and recognize those areas from that point forward. Okay, so what I want to do next is fill this in with some color. So I'm going to get out of outline mode. So look, toggling outline and preview is Command Y. We've talked about that earlier this quarter, but this is the first time where it actually means something, where it's important. So I looked at my line work to look for gaps. I cleaned them up, and then I went back to preview. I went to outline mode to look for gaps. I went back to preview. All right, so now that I'm in preview, I want to start adding color to this. So the best way to add color to this, I'm going to tear away my swatch panel so I can have all my colors available. All right. And I'm going to go to this tool called the Live Paint Bucket. The Live Paint Bucket. And the Live Paint Bucket also recognizes the fields. So see how it puts that little red highlight around the object? So it says, oh, I know I can fill you. I know I can fill you. Right? So let's go to brown. I'm going to give my character some brown hair. Okay, there we go. Added some brown. Let's give him some blue eyes. Oops. Blue. So you'll notice the bucket shows blue in the center. Blue, blue. All right, and then I want to go, I'm going to give him kind of like Simpsons. You know, the Simpsons? Kind of like Simpsons skin. Okay. All right, and then his collar, I'm going to make it green. Green collar. He has a green pocket. The inside of the pocket's a little darker because it's kind of like shaded a little bit. All right, and then he has a magenta pencil, and this is his, or pen, excuse me, a magenta pen. And then he has a pencil, his pocket. All right, and then he has a gold tooth. Right, he has a gold tooth. Okay, so you can see that this was a very fluid, a very natural way to add color. It was a very natural way to draw it as well. It was very organic. It felt very comfortable. And once I had the Live Paint group, I was able to interactively add the color to it. It was really fast. Okay, but you'll notice that I still have the red strokes on this guy, right? So I can select the entire Live Paint group and set the stroke color to black. Okay, so now it has more of a cartoony-like quality to it. So this is Live Paint. We're going to review this again.